Traits! Traits are here and here to stay. They're a massive, big thing in ARK, and you need to know everything about these things. I've been playing with these a lot. I'm going to show you how many traits there are, what they do, what they're all about. And any breeders out there, this is going to change ARK forever. You're right, kids, it's Raasclark, and yeah, let's go through this. First things first, of course, you can see a lot of moss chaps here, and these, believe it or not, identify every single trait you can get in the game at the moment. Though I'm hearing there's going to be even more traits on the way being added as ARK progresses. So hopefully this guide is worth something for the time being. As you can see that in my hand there is a gun. It's called a primitive gene scanner. You're going to need these, you're going to want these, as well as telling you the locations of certain creatures, which isn't too easy, but certainly a great new way to find creatures. As you can see, those arrows there are telling me where the nearest snail is. Its main primary use is taking and moving genetics traits to baby creatures. So how does it all work? So as you can see here, we have a moss chaps that has the frenetic gene trait. If we press H on our keyboard, we can see exactly what that trait does. Top drain rate increased by 7.5%. And in order to move that trait onto a baby, you can't breed it through to a baby. Instead, you have to use this gun to click on gene trait options and then find that trait and pull that trait over. And there it is in our gene scanner now, with our slot allowed up to 10 in our gene scanner. You'll notice upon taking that trait, that's it now. That creature has 0 traits, and you can't put any traits into this. It can't be done. It won't let me add traits to it. If we press transfer, it'll say target must be a baby at the top there. So this is the only way you can move traits over, right? So let's hatch a baby. There we go. Oh, we got 2 of them. Perfect. We got twins, which, by the way, if you don't know, this has recently just been patched into ARK. Finally, you can get opposite genders, not the same gender, with twins. Only took them a year to do that. So if we bring up the trait gun, you can see they have no traits currently, but if we inject one with this, we can move that trait. We just took out the first moss chaps into this moss chaps. As you can see, there's an allowance up to 5 slots. So you're allowed up to 5 different traits to inject into your creature, and each trait is dependent on coming from the same creature. So for example, if you wanted Reaper traits, you're going to need a lot of tamed Reapers in order to take the traits and put the traits in this. And I'm going to show you some more about that in a moment. Okay, now you know how to pull traits out of creatures. You know how to put them into babies. You're going to need a gene storage. Both that and the scanner, by the way, are unlocked at level 86. So it might be a bit of time before you're able to unlock these. And you do need the Bob's DLC pack in order to have these, if you didn't know that already. And the gene storage structure is kind of what you'd expect it to be, able to put all of the genes that you have been plucking out of creatures into there, and you can pop them back into your gun and vice versa, right? So how many traits are there? There's a lot of traits, as you can see here, and I've grouped them into what exactly they affect. So for example, so these 5 here are affecting health and tankiness, and we'll go through them bit by bit. Tenacious, offering a damage reduction between 0 to 12.5% as the health reaches 50 to 25%. Numb, with this creature having its damage reduced by 25%, but taking 25% damage over the next 5 seconds. Athletic, gaining a 0.05 health regen and a 0.05 stamina regen for every point you put into oxygen, making oxygen leveling an actual thing there in ARK. Fatigue, gaining 0.10 armor for each point in its food stat, meaning food you're going to want to start leveling now if you're working on tanks. And Vampiric, allowing a heal for 5% of damage dealt. So Daedons could be absolutely insane in ARK soon. These 4 here have some buffs for players. So Warm offers 40 hypothermic insulation, with the creature and its rider reducing incoming damage from cold-based attacks by 5%, and the opposite with the cold, 40 hypothermic insulation, with the creature and its rider reducing incoming damage from heat-based attacks by 5%. Distracting, allowing non-allied targets that take damage from this creature's melee attack deal 5% less damage to all other targets for 20 seconds. And protective, allowing the creature's rider to take 15% less damage and persist for 10 seconds after dismounting. Allowing a pretty cool buff, you can see it there at the bottom right, that when dismounted, we now have an additional protection that we could use to run at turrets or something, right? That's going to be super interesting. Over here we have speed based traits. So this one, Nocturnal, reduces stamina consumption during nighttime by 2.5%. Carefree gains 7.5 move speed buff that is last for 20 seconds after dealing receiving damage or gaining a new rider, but still 7.5% movement speed buff, which is a lot. Diurnal reduces stamina consumption during daytime by 2.5%. So aggressive, whenever this creature deals damage to a non-allied target, it gains a 2.5% movement speed buff for 5 seconds, refreshing on every hit it does. So imagine this being used on flyers. High endurance, improving your stamina drain from sprinting, it's decreased by 4%. Aquatic, improving your swimming speed by 7.5%. So sea creatures especially, this is going to be super useful for. And oxygen drain while submerged, reduced by 12.5%. And stamina drain from sprinting, reduced by 4%. Obviously a trait you're going to want to be putting into those sea creatures. Cowardly, when this creature receives damage from a non-allied target, it gains a 2.5% movement speed buff for 5 seconds. Some random ones I wasn't too sure what to criteria them to. You've got 1 XP base, so fast learner that gains an additional 15% experience and can be replaced even after the creature has reached maturity. Frenetic, that improves torpor drain rate by 7.5%, so creatures won't be asleep for too long. And slow metabolism, that reduces the food consumption by 5%, and that does include food consumed to power abilities. I feel like there is a lot more to this one in particular, and especially for Daedons. And melee-based ones. These ones are going to allow your creatures to hit just a bit harder, with this one increasing the damage of basic attacks by 2.5%, but the speed of basic attacks reduced by 5%. And the opposite of that, attack speed will be increased by 2.5%, but your attacks will be reduced by 5%. With excitable, meaning hitting any enemy with this creature's basic attacks reduces the cooldown of its other things that it can do by 0.25 seconds. Angry, dealing an additional 0 to 12.5% outgoing damage as its health reduces to 50 or 25%, as its health reduces down to 25%. And Giant Slaying, which is going to be a fan favorite, I'm very sure, improves outgoing damage against creatures with drag weight 500 or higher by 2.5%, though does decrease damage to any creatures below a 200 drag weight by 7.5%. So essentially, you're going to want to be breeding these into whatever you run bosses with. And Kingslaying, increasing damage done by 5% to bosses and alphas, although it will do 10% less damage to other Mosschops. So combined with Giant Slaying, considering that alphas and bosses do have a weight, and I assume maybe possibly you could combine the two and hopefully stack any of these, though I'm guessing you probably won't be able to stack these ones, to make some absolute dirty boss fighting monsters. On top of that, there's traits for resource farming. So Desert Bearing creates a weight reduction by 15% on silk, raw salt, sand, cactus sap, and sulfur. Carcass Bearing, the same deal again, but 15% on chitin, hide, keratin, organic polymer, pelt, and wood. Meat Bearing for raw meat, raw fish meat, mutton, raw prime meat, and raw prime fish meat. Plant Bearing for thatch, wood, fibers, berries, crops, and seeds. And mineral bearing that you're going to want to probably be putting into your metal farmers like Ankies, flintstone, crystal, obsidian, and metal ore. Cave bearing, obviously a great one for aberration, allowing a reduction on red gems, green gems, blue gems, congealed gas balls, and element ore. And exotic bearing, which I guess might be a rare one. I don't know. Didn't see this one very often, allowing a weight reduction on angler gel, black pearls, element, leech, blood, oil, and silica pearls. And then you've got these. These are traits that affect each individual stat on your creatures, with with 3 different variants. So you've got Melee Robust, offering a 1.5% chance to inherit the higher melee damage stat of its parent. Frail, which decreases the chance of it inheriting the higher melee damage stat of its parent, and that meaning the offspring of this. So consider this if you've got 2 creatures and one you want to make sure you move over the melee, you could put this into the one you don't want to do, right? And mutable melee, allowing the offspring to have a 1% chance to mutate, and its mutations have an extra chance to apply to its melee damage stat. And these 3 things, frail, robust, and melee, apply to every single one. So there's 3 for weight, there's 3 for food, 3 for oxygen, 3 for stamina, and 3 for health. Most of these stack, and they've all got individual stacking rates. We found so far, if we look at this Reaper that we sorted before, Fatty can stack up to 3 times, but Numb only stacks once. And every wild creature you encounter, and does include every single map, here's me looking at a Giga with a trait on it, everything has a trait, but they're all seemingly having the level 1 on them. So as you noticed, as we've been going through all of these, we can see the level 1 on every single moss shops that we look at, right? And that is the most common trait you're gonna get. I mean, every single one. If you go to our machine here, everything's got the number 1 by it, telling you it's that level 1 of that trait. So there has to be a way to get a level 2, maybe even more, right? Well, turns out Wildcard literally just patched this in, where you can now get level 2s and level 3s, meaning an improved percentage. So looking at Kingslaying at level 2 has gone up to 7.5%. Compare it to the level 1 version, which is 5%, meaning a level 2 gets double of half of its original value. That was 5. That was 5. Halve it to 2.5. And add it to 5, you get 7.5, right? Which means, surely, possibly, level 3 is going to do the same again. Though interesting, Giant Slaying at level 2 has its nerf doubled as well as its outgoing damage. I'm wondering whether that one's a bug or they just decided to keep it. So let's have a look at another one. Vampiric, healing for 7.5% of damage dealt versus the original level 1 that healed for 5%. And Heavy Hitting, increasing to 3.75%, a increase over level 1. These level 2s are certainly more rarer to spawn than the level 1s, as you'd expect, but I seem to get these pretty common. I mean, it wasn't too bad to find these, but obviously this is what it's all about. Level 3s, people. This is what you want. You now want to try and find level 3s, offering a little cheeky pink colour as well to help identify it. You get blue for level 2, good to know. But getting a level 3 ain't easy. This took me a long time to get this, even with commands. So I'm going to take a stab in the dark here. If you find a level 3 trait, keep it. Just tame it. And it's going to create a whole new element of ARK of people just taming anything they can because they found a level 3 trait on it. That's going to be the case because these are super rare. But how much of an increase? Let's have a look. Swimming speeds increased by 15%. Let's have a look at the original aquatic. So we've gone from 7.5% to 15%, meaning a level 3 will double the original level 1 trait. So looking at the comparatives between the level 2s and the level 1s, and what's happened between this level 3 aquatic and this level 1 aquatic, I can pretty much guarantee any level 3 you find of any of these traits we've just been through, you will find double the value. This is a whole new era of ARK. Everybody is going to be wanting to tame traits no matter what. If it's a level 3 trait, you tame it. That is now ARK. That is now the future of ARK. So good luck out there taming and storing possibly hundreds and thousands of different traits of different creatures to get your armies. But when you get your armies, you've got some monsters. Until the next one, my name's Raasclark. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, peace out.